Good morning. It has been a hot minute since I posted anything. Doesn't mean I gave up. Just means that life has been, how shall we say it? A little crazy. I'm going to talk to you about that today. I'm going to talk to you about my month of April because April was the month of winning. So we want to see, did I really win? I want to talk to you about some thoughts that were in my head and why I kind of disappeared for a while. And going to talk to you about my plans for May. I'm going to tell you what the scales did in the month of April. So stay tuned. So I'm outside walking the dog. It's early. I'm going to continue looking for jobs. And when my hair is dry, we'll chit chat a little bit. So here I am. I'm inside. My hair is finally dry. I have been applying for jobs because, yes, I am still unemployed. It is blowing my mind that I have been unemployed for 4 months now. I get on the computer every day. I look for jobs every day. I apply for things every day. I have probably over 250 applications that I've completed. So it's not for lack of trying, but we digress. We're not going to talk about that. We're going to talk about where I've been, what I'm doing in life. But first of all, let's talk about April because April was my month of winning. And, that means I wanted to share, did I win? How did I do? I was tickled to get into April because the first couple days I knew I was going to be finishing up the 75 hard and I knew I was going to be strong with that. And even more importantly, I knew that the 75 hard had set me up with habits. I was exercising every morning at 5 in the morning. I was walking. I was doing stuff. I had good habits. I finished up the 75 hard. I was going strong. And about 2 or 3 days later, I ended up getting sick. I was sick for a week. The first 2 days I laid. I couldn't even pick up a book to read. TV was not on. I just literally laid there feeling like I was going to die. Now, it did take me about a week to recover, and I did lose some weight during that week. I knew that I was probably not going to be able to maintain that weight because, as soon as you start eating and your body is not eliminating everything, weight is going to come back on. But that week was pivotal in my month of winning because all of those good habits that I had started with the 75 hard, out the door. Furthermore, I picked up a bad habit. Up until that point, I had only had maybe one day where I watched a movie in the afternoon. Other than that, I never turned on the TV. I was keeping myself busy. I was going for walks. I was doing all kinds of stuff. I was, of course, looking for jobs. But during that week, I started watching TV because after that first day or two when I really couldn't even do much of anything, sitting around watching TV was what I could handle. The next week rolled around and I felt a lot better, but I still watched TV. That TV has been turned on pretty much every day. Now, after another week or two, I was like, you know what? We've got to do something else about this. We cannot continue this. And so I did start shaking myself up. I started to go outside and work. I have finally finished the mulch pile. I've been weeding areas. I've been getting the garden ready for planting. I've been doing stuff outside. So I actually did turn that around to an extent, although I still do really, really want to put the TV on. In fact, up until yesterday, which was the last day of April, I hadn't even been in my office to work. I'd been working out in the living room because I could turn the TV on out there. So I picked up a bad habit. Exercise, I really didn't do that in the morning either. And in fact, I haven't really done much of anything other than I have been working outside. So exercise was a failure. Now, after I got sick, I did struggle to get back to drinking my water. And I have luckily picked that one back up also. So the month of winning was not a month of winning. It was a month of struggle to rebuild good habits and picking up some bads. So what's up for May? Now, as April came to a close, part of me wanted to say, let's jump back into that 45 minutes in and 45 minutes out and doing all of that stuff, that the habits that I picked up with 75 hard. And I know I could do it. And for a brief split second, very, very split second, I was like, I could start another 75 hard. And I'm like, no, I'm not ready for that yet. So for May, I actually set aside 4 different things that I want to do, and I'm not aiming for perfection of doing them 7 days a week. I'm aiming for 6 days a week for each one of those. The first is steps. I have, as I just been telling you, been sitting and watching a lot of TV. And when you watch TV, you don't get a lot of steps. Now, if I do go outside, I do pick up some steps because, I am outside working. But getting more than 5,000 steps has been difficult some days. So my goal is 5,000 steps every day, or actually 6 days of the week. The next thing is water, 64 ounces, 6 days a week. I really probably shouldn't give myself a pass for that, but I'm giving myself a pass 6 days a week. I'm not aiming for perfection. I'm aiming for sustainability. The next one is calories. I want to be under 1,400 calories 6 days a week. And then last but not least, I actually am wanting to do a fasting. I am right now aiming for 16-8, which is 16 hours of fast, 8 hours of eating. Why I'm doing this is because when I was starting to recover from being sick, I started to notice that I really wasn't hungry. I was eating because it was time to eat, not because I was hungry. And for a little while after I was sick, I actually would make myself wait until my stomach would growl. I would wait till my body actually gave me signs and symptoms of being hungry. And I started to realize that, I really wasn't hungry first thing in the morning. I really wasn't hungry at lunch. And if I did eat lunch and breakfast, then I was so stuffed at night after I ate dinner that I was just miserable. And so I'm like, you know what? I'm going to do 16-8. Which means I'm not eating breakfast. I'm not eating till right around 11 or 12. And I'm going to be honest and say that my fast usually is about 18 hours, but I'm aiming for 16-8. I am aiming for that for 6 days a week because sustainability. So 4 things. Nothing outrageous, nothing crazy, but those are the 4 things that I aim to do for the next 31 days. So, why have I been mysteriously missing? I actually was really starting to wind down and just not feeling this at the end of April. And I think it was a combination of a couple things. So in December, I decided at the last minute to do a Vlogmas, and I posted 31 videos in that month, video a day. I was freshly out of a job and I was like, you know what? I can carry on with that. And I didn't do a video a day, but I did at least 5 a week, which takes a lot of time. For those of you who don't know, putting out a video every day is difficult. And yeah, so I did. And I continued that through January, February, and March. And I think I was a little burnt out. Number 2, and probably the most important, was I actually had to do some soul searching. I was riding with my youngest nephew in the car, and we were talking about my job hunt and how I was looking for a job and, just wasn't going well. At that point, I was, mid-March. And he looked at me, he says, but Mary Fran, what are your dreams? What do you want to do? And I sat back and I'm like, dreams. And I looked at him and I said, I don't have any dreams. And he looked at me and he said the most profound statement. He's like, Mary Fran, that's sad. And that conversation stuck with me. Thought about it while I was cooking dinner. I thought about it in the shower. I thought about it everywhere. And I really had to step back from YouTube to actually really think about what my dreams are in life. I did come up with some things that I enjoy, some dreams that I would like. I mean, one of the things is I would love to travel full time. Ironically enough, right now I have the time, but I don't have the money because I'm unemployed. But be that as it may. And so that was one of my things. And I was like, but I can't do it because of being unemployed. And when I get a job, I'm going to have a job and blah, blah, blah. And I started to think about it. And I'm like, you know what? Years ago, I had started a blog about travel. I have played around with doing videos and all kinds of stuff on travel. And I've done a whole bunch of videos on here, which are my favorite videos to create. I'll put a link to my travel videos. And I decided that I can still travel through the internet. I can do my research. I can travel through the internet. So I started to really research. And I found some amazing things. Like I found out that Pennsylvania has the first 2 crematoriums in the United States. And they were built under great conflict because it was just abnormal. Interesting things like that. I learned about the Venetian pool in Coral Gables. It was built out of an old quarry. And it is the largest freshwater swimming pool in the United States, and it is the only swimming pool on the National Historic Register. I've actually also revisited some of the places that I've gone in the past. Like I went back to the gravesite of Stonewall Jackson's arm, and yes, not his body, just his arm. And in doing that, I found out that in Virginia, you could also go visit the stuffed horse that he rode. Stonewall Jackson's horse. Who knew? So I've actually had some fun doing some visiting of places and just doing stuff online. I actually am writing what I find because it's just fun and it helps me remember. I actually am posting them on visitplayexplore.com, and go check them out because I'm seeing some neat things. Right now I'm looking at some places in Nebraska, of all places, and I'm finding some quite interesting things that I'll be writing about very shortly. So, so it's interesting. But I actually had to sit back and say, what am I doing that's making me happy? And, kind of doing some online travel made me happy. And don't know how much I'm going to be posting because I really don't want to burn out on here. But I am back and I am going to try to do a little bit more than I have in this past month. So that's been me for the last month, being sick and getting better, but also, and more importantly, trying to figure out who I am, what makes me tick, rediscovering who I am again. So anyway, that's where I've been. I do apologize for my absence. I kept saying I was going to come and talk to you about it, and it just didn't happen. Probably because I was watching too much TV. But last but not least, let's talk about April. Did I gain weight? I was sick and I didn't exactly track my food. I sat around and watched a lot of television, and well, what did I do? Did I gain? Did I maintain? Did I lose? I am very happy to say that I lost 8 pounds. Now, I'm going to be honest and say that a lot of that was when I was sick and I just maintained 8 of those pounds, but still a loss of 8 pounds. So I will take it. So yeah, there we are. April was kind of a bust in terms of steps toward being healthy. It was a win with weight loss, and it was a win with me looking deep into myself and figuring out who I am. But May is here, and I'm ready to be amazing in May. Maybe I'll call it amazing. Yeah, I like that. So anyway, if you've made it to the end, thank you, and you have a fabulous day. No excuses.